One of the most common questions I get asked by students when they're interviewing for investment banking is, Dave, how do I stop from freezing up? The answer is practice. As with anything in life, the more that you practice, the better that you get at it. So when I was in investment banking recruiting back in the Stone Ages, where we did everything by candlelight and quill pen, we didn't have really any type of opportunity to practice. And that was the inspiration behind something that we built on the Athena platform called the interview simulator. It's an opportunity for you to have 15 or 14, questions to be asked of you over and over and over again on a rotating basis among a very large pool of different questions. So you're never asked the same question twice, of different things that might come up in an interview to help you prepare. It's to help you practice. Let's take a look at how it's going to work in this video here. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do when I go onto my screen here is I'm going to go to course and I'm going to scroll down to this interview simulator here. This interview simulator is meant to create a mock interview, and it's going to record the way that you answer and the content that you give in order to determine whether or not it feels that you answered the question sufficiently and well enough that you would get a passing grade or a failing grade in an interview. So you can practice this as many times as you want. You can see my screen here. I'm in Matt's lovely apartment, and I'm going to start this interview. Now, in the interest of time, I'm only going to answer a handful of these, so I will probably fail this interview because I'm not going to answer all 14 questions, but it'll give you an idea of how it works so that you can see how this can be helpful for you. I'm going to start the interview and start recording. I click there. So here's a typical question: why investment banking? Now, don't take notes on the way that I'm going to answer this because some I'm going to answer well, so I'm not going to answer so well. So let's see what the interview simulator does in types of my response. Why investment banking? Well, ever since I was a kid, I was always really interested in money. I wanted to make sure that I had as much money as possible, and I thought investment banking would be one of the best ways to do it. I know investment bankers make a lot of money, and that's why I want to be an investment banker. That's why investment banking. By the way, I wasn't being serious on that one, but hey, I've gotten stranger answers to that question before, so you get the point. How about this one? Tell me about a time that you made a mistake or a setback. How did you handle it? Well, whenever I face a setback, I always use it as a learning opportunity. I try to find the different things that I could take away as an opportunity to improve myself and gather feedback as often as I can to continuously improve. The times that I've found that I've been faced with a setback or some form of negative feedback, I always follow up and form some form of corrective action. I tell them by identifying what I did wrong, explaining how I got there, and then identifying the fallacy in my thought or what led me astray, and then letting them know that what I'm going to do to correct it in the future. If you follow those different types of steps by identifying what it is that went wrong, understanding it, identifying what led you astray so that it won't happen again, and then figuring out what you're going to do to rectify it, that and usually leads you to the best outcome. So when I've faced feedback or setbacks or mistakes and I've gotten feedback to those regards, that's how I typically handle it. I try to understand it. I try to understand what led me astray in my logic or understanding of something, and I do something to let them know how I'm going to fix it in the future. What are the two methods of calculating terminal value? When would you see one versus the other? Well, there are two methods of calculating terminal value. The first is the exit value method, which assumes that you are going to be exiting a company after a certain number of years, in which case you would multiply the ending EBITDA times a multiple with an assumed exit at the end. That's one way. The other way is the perpetuity method using the Gordon growth model. You have your last year of free cash flow, and you divide that by the rate or the discount rate minus the rate of growth. One you're going to use when you assume you exit a company. That's the exit method. The other is when you're going to assume that you hold on to the company in perpetuity or after a certain number of years that you're going to be holding it, usually 5 to 10 years. That's why you would use two different exit values, and that's the different ways that you would calculate them. So once I finished my analysis and I get through the different things that I've said in my interview, it starts processing my interview. It shows that my upload was verified. It's going to start transcribing my audio and it's going to process my responses. When it's evaluating your performance, give it a little bit of time. It takes in a lot of words and it wants to know what you're saying. So obviously I'm a no hire here, but let's see. Now, when it spoke to me about using setbacks as learning opportunities without citing any specific mistake, it's right. I didn't give a specific mistake. Why investment banking? It also just completely tore apart my example. I openly acknowledge I was giving a poor answer, which means that it was recording more than I wanted it to, but it demonstrated that I had zero understanding of the role and provided the exact type of answers that signals immaturity and poor judgment. It understood what my answer was. However, with the time that I faced a mistake or a setback, it said I spoke for the full allotted time and attention to structure response around learning. That's good. But it was a generic answer with no specific situation, no actual mistake described, and excessive corporate jargon that sounds rehearsed. Okay, so I have a little bit to improve there. That means that next time around, one of the things that I could do to improve is give a specific example. And two methods of calculating terminal value. Correctly named both methods provide the accurate Gordon growth measures, demonstrated judgment on specific action code, but I called it the exit value method instead of the exit multiple method, but that's minor. So it understood that I gave the right answer in that one, and it gave me the feedback I needed to know that that's the answer that I should continue to rehearse, practice in the future. Practice, 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 practice. Every one of these things gives you a little bit of insight on what you could do better, what you did well, and what you could do next time so that at the end, this becomes routine. That's where you want to be when it comes to practicing an interview. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how some of the tools, the interview simulator being one of them, is different on Athena. It's there to help you practice. Our goal is not only to help you get educated, it's to help you get hired.